It's now time for DC Capstone Report with DC. You can find that report at dccapstonereport.com, or you can tune in to Tide1029.com and find the replay there as well. DC, good morning. Welcome into the Blitz. How you doing?
Good morning, Martin. Doing great. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Hey, want to get right into the conversation. We're going to get to the last night's game, and then we'll get to a little Alabama basketball, then quickly transition over to football. Did you get to watch the game last night? And if so, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to watch the game last night. Of course, you know I love basketball, so anytime there's a good basketball game, I love to watch it. I thought it was good. I thought at first it ended up being one of those defensive struggles, but then in the second half, the teams kind of found their shot, and I thought it was exciting. You have a clutch shot on each end of the court, and both teams playing their heart out. And just Virginia seemed to be that team of destiny this year who's going to make that run from worst to first, so to speak. And so I think it was an overall good showing for NCAA basketball.
I thought it was interesting. They showed a stat at the beginning. Virginia is the only team that did not face a number 1 or 2 seed on their run. And then if Texas Tech had won, they would have been the only team, I think maybe the second team or maybe the only team to ever go against all 1 and 2s on their way to the national championship. So they had different paths to get there, but Virginia seems to be a team, people say play down to your competition. I think they just make their competition play down because they had this year they were able to just get teams out of rhythm. And in the tournament, both of these teams held their opponents to almost 20 points less. They were all averaging in the 70s. They held them all in the 50s, so which is absolutely crazy to think about. But, DC, when you look at basketball, when you look at football, it's obvious that the powers that be wants offensive-based sports, offensive-based games. How ironic is it that the two teams that played last night are probably two of the most sound fundamental teams out there still left in basketball, and I don't think they get credit for being how good they are offensively.
I agree with everybody talks about how great they are defensively, but they've got some really good clutch shooters who run some really good space, open offensive schemes, and they're fundamentally sound from defensive rebounding and don't turn the ball over. They make the foul shots. They're just a two well-rounded teams. And I know that everybody wants that wide open offense. And it does. You got to win. You can't win unless you put the ball in the hole. But you also got to keep the other team from scoring. So you got to have a blend of both. I think these teams had a good blend of both.
All right. Well, congratulations to Virginia. They got their first one. The orange and blue got it, but it wasn't the orange and blue from the state. And some folks disappointed. But I thought this year had to give hope to a lot of other basketball programs that you can build it and get there if you've never been there. And I think that's probably one of the best things that happened in this basketball year. From a national standpoint, when you look at Alabama yesterday, getting the news about Kyra Lewis coming back, how big of a get is this for Coach Nate Oates?
I think it's a huge get. In my opinion, it was the must get that he had to get this time. I mean, everybody, if he doesn't get Watford, then nobody's really banking on him getting Watford because he's got all the big names in his final list. But, I mean, if you don't get Watford, you can recover from that. But if you don't get Kyra Lewis, who do you have left on the team that's going to run point for you? So you're scrambling trying to find a point guard. And I was so excited when I heard the news of that Kyra Lewis was coming back. I think that Nate Oates showed how great a recruiter he was because to him, he was recruiting Kyra Lewis and his entire family to come back to the University of Alabama and give him a shot. And I don't think it took long for Kyra Lewis to look at some of the film and look at the spacing, look at the offense that Nate Oates runs, and say, hey, I would be crazy to go away from something like this that's going to really emphasize my strengths and help me play in a program that'll help me to develop offensively. So I think it was a great move for Kyra Lewis. I think it was a great move for Alabama and a really big win for Nate Oates.
DC, when you look at what he was able to do, I think some people sometimes think, well, this was just all for show. Because Kyra, I mean, to us on the outside looking in, it looks like this should have been a slam dunk for Kyra. Was this really a hard recruiting get? And why do you think it was so hard to convince Kyra? Because as outsiders looking in and novice, it looked like this would have been a no-brainer for Kyra to stay because of the year he had, and now he's going to be in a position, in my opinion, to not just be – we talk about him being a top freshman. He's now going to be the top 18-year-old in the country because of the style of offense. Was it a legit get, or was Kyra coming back the whole time?
I don't think he was coming back all the time. I think it was a legit get. From what I know, from behind-the-scenes things that happened, Kyra Lewis, his family were all a little hurt by some things that happened last year at Alabama and the way they were handled. And although Nate Oates was not here then, I still think you mentioned players young. He's 17 years old. I mean, what was I doing when I was 17? I mean, this kid's thinking about a lot of things, and something happens that you look for your coach to support you, and you look for your team to support you, and then all of a sudden there's factions, and everybody's taking sides, and the person you feel like wrongs you. Nothing happens to them. They're still playing every night when they had an opportunity to play. And I mean, that causes some feelings that you had to work through there. And so I think his feelings were hurt a little bit. I think his family was concerned about his well-being, and who was taking care of him, a young man who had been convinced to come to the University of Alabama at 17 years old. And, I think there was truly a lot of persuasion that Nate Oates had to do to gain the confidence of this family. They'd already placed their confidence in one person, and I think it felt like it was a little stretch for them to have to place their confidence in Nate Oates coming in not knowing him. But I think he did it the right way. He went after and improved that young man, and he didn't put any pressure on him. He got to know his family, and I think that shows you right there in a nutshell a microcosm of what we can expect from Nate Oates down the stretch.
And speaking of Kyra being a top freshman coming in, we're going to transition the conversation to football. Scrimmage this weekend. Alabama had some freshmen making a little noise this week. We'll talk about that and more when we come back on the other side of the break with DC Capstone Report. You can find it, like I said, at dccapstonereport.com, presented by freelancepictures.com and rolltidebama.com. Let's get back into the conversation with DC. DC, the scrimmage started. Not started, but the scrimmage on Saturday was the second of three. Of course, the third one will be the A-Day game. What are your official feelings? Just kind of a quick rundown of what you heard overall impression of the second scrimmage.
Well, I heard some good things come out of the second scrimmage and some bad things. I'm looking forward to the A-Day this week, kind of see myself so I can put my eyes on it. But the forces tell me that, defense still a little trouble in the middle with the middle linebacker position. Still not happy there. Coach is not happy with what's going on. Outside Dylan Moses, Josh McMillan seems to be the one to have come to the top there to play with him, but still making mistakes, still not consistent, still missing tackles. Had a couple of guys who have been up in that trying to fill that second team role that kind of dropped back down to the third team role just because of their mental mistakes and errors, that sort of thing. So that's still a place of point of concern. Did find out defensive line, DJ Dale, a freshman, seems to have stepped up there and really pushing for possible playing time. Everybody that's talked about him says he's kind of like a copy of a looking that player that Alabama's had in the middle there, like Quinn Williams last year and Deron Payne before him. That big, but with quickness and agility to get to the backfield and stop the run and get to the quarterback as well. So I think that's impressive. I think on Scooby Carter seems to be playing, another freshman seems to be playing a little bit more in the defensive backfield. I think John Michie on offense, catching the ball a little more, seems to be working into a rotation with the wide receivers. I think overall that second scrimmage was kind of a step back. I think Coach Saban expected more of the younger players to make a big improvement, and didn't see that happen. And I think on our offense, there was a lack of focus. There was a lot of interceptions. I think maybe 6 or 7 interceptions in the scrimmage. I think 2 interceptions, Mac Jones threw 4. So I think that kind of sets the tone for maybe a good week of practice this week, getting into 8-day week, see what they can do on a regular scrimmage type game.
We'll get back to that conversation. Gregory has a quick question for you based on something that Nick Saban said in his post-game press conference. Greg, you're in with DC. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, roll tide, Martin, DC.
Roll tide.
DC, I got a question for you and Martin. Nick Saban said something about a former player that went to the draft. I'd like to know, do you think Nick Saban was out of his character about, pronouncing, about some player leaving early? Because he used to say, they can leave, but he wished them to come back and finish the, learning, agree. Do you think this team right here, this season, got him a little frustrated, by the depth and the lack of ability to catch on? Now, that's for you, DC. Marge, okay, you been shooting for for the Heisman Trophy. You saying that because we lack of depth and we're going to need the offense to score more and more? Now, what one you want? You want go for the Heisman Trophy or go for the whole thing?
All right, I'll let DC answer first, and then I'll answer the question about Tua. Thanks, Gregory.
On your question there about Coach Saban, but believe me, I don't think Coach Saban ever says anything in a press conference or anything in a setting that he doesn't say for a reason. And I don't think that what he said was against that player. He can't do anything to change what that player's done. But I think he used that as an example of a specific person. What he was saying was for all the players on his team now. Look, here's what happens when you do that and when you make that decision. Now, there's been all kind of players come out in support of the player. Some people on the team come out in support of Nick Saban. The truth is they're two different people looking at two different perspectives, and both of them can be right. And I think that's what you need to understand in a situation like that. Coach Saban's looking at it from a long-term perspective, and that player's looking at it from a short-term perspective. And making a decision with those in mind, both people can be right. So I don't think Nick Saban said anything wrong, and I think he was talking about his team, talking to his current team, so he'll let them know the landscape out there, the choices that you make, and they do follow you for the rest of your playing career. DC,
I agree. I think Gregory, to Gregory's point, I think Nick Saban is frustrated. I think with the landscape of college football as a whole. And one of those areas, of course, is the players leaving early. But to your point, I think he's also speaking. I think Nick Saban does care about these players. I think that's what makes him so powerful in the home, that it is a genuine care for the players. And the fact that he has gone to the point, because he can't say this and it not be true or it'll come out, the fact that he says he's now sitting down in the homes and saying, guys, you're coming to college for after football. If you do what you're supposed to do and you're good enough, the football is going to come, but football is also going to end and you need to prepare. So I thought that spoke to it. But the other part, DC, when I look at it, is Nick Saban is frustrated because he's directly impacted by the loss of not the players that's ready. I think he'll push any player that's ready to go. But the fact that this young man made a $15 to $18 million loss, negative decision, and he said it's a business, and it's nothing but business. And then you saw some of the other players come out and say, hey, guys, he's right. And I think Ronnie Harrison, and that's who he was talking about, I think his feelings are hurt. He left, Nick Saban told him, and the guy probably would have been a first-round draft pick this year. That's a $15 to $18 million decision for doing the exact same thing he's going to be doing the next 3 years. So, and then to get the attention, back to your point, to get the attention of the other players. It is what it is, but what's your thought in terms of should there be something done to potentially give these players a little bit more information and opportunity, and if it doesn't work out, to come back? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think they could expand the process to give opportunity for players to contact an agent, contact a financial advisor, contact the NFL scout, go the whole 9 yards, up into the point of making a decision. And if after all that is decided, give them plenty of time to decide, and then opportunity to come back to school if they test the water, so to speak, and realize it's not going to be a benefit for them. Because you got to weigh the options. You got to weigh the options. You got to weigh the options about your chance of injury. So you got to offset that risk of injury with some type of insurance policy and that sort of thing. So I think there's a way to do it, and there's a way to keep the financial security for the player and give the player opportunity to develop if he needs to make himself in a better position the next year.
Well, you know,
that risk with the insurance policy.
You know, basketball, like John Petty and Herb Jones have already worked out for NBA coaches. Dude,
right.
And to me, that's what needs to be added to this football thing. Not that you don't let the guys go through the draft, because at that point it's too late for several reasons. Spring practice has happened, scholarships and rosters have been filled, and NFL teams have made a draft pick. And if they take a guy in the third round, you can't go back and give them another third round. You know, so you can't do that. But there is a way that in my opinion, I think you push the signing day now, February 2nd, Wednesday in February, doesn't mean anything anyway. Push that back to after Combine. Let guys go to Combine, see what they really get, and maybe even bring Combine up a little bit, and they get at least one workout. Because when you come out of that one workout, you pretty much know now it's not your coach saying something to keep you back. Because what happens is these players think, well, I really probably got a second or a first round grade, but my coach is telling me third round. You know, that would prove it. And then these guys could make a decision based on what they've done against all the guys that's leaving. Sometimes guys leave because they're the top guy, but then another guy leaves that wasn't expected to leave. And they could have came back. So I think you give them some flexibility there, but you'd have to push back signing day because of rosters and roster management and things like that. And maybe even give a few extra scholarships to give that 85 to 90 man roster flexibility if you had a few guys that left and decided to come back. But that's my thoughts on that.
I agree with you. And Coach Saban, we got to remember, he's singled out a player who made it in the third round, Ronnie Harrison. I don't think he meant anything negative about that. What he didn't talk about was the hundreds of players that didn't get picked.
Well, he actually did. He said it's 25% of them that don't make it. He didn't name them. Right.
What I'm saying is he gets chastised for naming a player who did make it. But he didn't name the 300 players or so that didn't get picked. He talked about them.
Right.
So there's 300 or so players that didn't get picked.
Right.
He was making $0.
That's right.
So I think it's a bigger problem than what people are letting on. But they're just, like I said, probably got the feelings hurt over something he said, but he was being truthful about it. I don't see it being a problem.
All right. And Virgil Williams has a good point. Why couldn't they have a junior day for scouts to look at underclassmen and actually give feedback? That's another way to do it. To me, there's just a lot of things that could be done to help that. DC, let's go ahead and get the break here. Coming back on the other side, we'll dig a little deeper into this DJ Dale scenario. Hey, I'm telling you why the guy's great. The guy was good enough to play fullback in high school. I mean, that's all you need to say, right? I mean, anybody good enough to play fullback in high school is ready to come in and play. I'm just kidding. We'll talk more about DJ Dale and others coming back on the other side. We also got Tom who wants to get in with you, DC. That more coming right back on the Blitz. All right, DC, we're back in with you. Let's get to Tom. Tom had a question for you, and then we'll get back to the scrimmage. Tom. All right, DC, Tom's not there now, so let's continue our conversation. DJ Dale, you briefly mentioned him a few minutes ago. Seems to be just skyrocketing up the poll, and it seems to be about his mental maturity as much as it is his athletic ability in terms of it. Who is he supplanting? Is he supplanting Mathis? Is it someone else? Who all? Because you and I both thought Barrymore would be one of those guys that would be making a move this offseason.
Yeah, I think it's affected Barrymore, and I think it's affected Mathis. I think the first he's been starting and playing with the most has been Raekwon Davis and LeBron Ray. It was him, but DJ Dale being in the middle. So I think that's probably supplanting where Mathis thought he would start, or Christian Barrymore as well. So and we got got good nose guards. If Dale's coming on and giving us his other presence in the middle, behind him you got Mathis. Mathis can also play a defensive tackle out on the side as well. Then you got Barrymore, you got Tavita Muska. So you got some guys there that's got some experience. So we're really good at that middle. And to have a young freshman player like DJ Dale just to skyrocket up that depth chart, if you will, just goes. Not only does he have the athletic skill to play the position, but he has the mental toughness and the mental awareness to do it the right way. And I think that's something that Coach Saban rewards. You hear him talking about the mental mistakes. We got great athletic linebackers that can run side to side, but it's the mental mistakes that get you beat. And I think he must be seeing something really good in DJ Dale, the defensive line, to have him playing so well with the ones.
Yeah, and when you think about DJ Dale skyrocketing up the depth chart, one of the obvious guys that people expected to come in and possibly fight for some playing time is Ishmael Topsher, who's not on campus yet, and then Brian Young and a couple other young defensive players. Is Saban mentioning these freshmen? He's mentioned the 12. They're going to have to become known as the 12, the Dirty Dozen or something, because Nick Saban is referring to these 12 freshmen that's not on campus every press conference. Is he doing that because he's going to really need those guys, or is he doing that to make those guys stay motivated, engaged, and feel like they have a chance to come in and play instead of feeling like they're coming in to be redshirted?
I think it's twofold there. I think he really, maybe threefold. He wants to motivate the players he's got now. He wants to keep them engaged, the ones that are coming in, and give them. And I think he's going to need some of them. I think he's been clear. He may not find that middle linebacking core until all the freshmen get here. So I think he's thinking about some freshmen contributing to this team. Maybe even using Trey Sanders or one of the other running backs coming in to play as well on offense. So maybe that tight end that's coming in, maybe the guy that's going to contribute. So what I think he's saying is threefold. Hey, the guys that are here, hey, do your best, because we got some other guys that are coming in August to have a chance to play. Hey, the guys that are coming in August, we're going to need those to help us. And, hey, you guys keep it up. Keep your head up. You got a chance to play on this team if you get here and do everything right. So I think it's kind of a threefold response. What he's trying to get the message out there.
And I've been impressed with what DJ Dale has been able to do, but I'm not sure if what John Mechie supposedly has done is not the most impressive thing or the biggest standout from this spring, because we said last week, well, he worked his way in because Ruggs wasn't there. Well, this week, supposedly in the scrimmage, it wasn't any different with Ruggs there. He seems to be a guy that's worked himself into a solid rotation with what I call the first rotation of wide receivers. They're going to start off with 4 or 5 guys based on the formation, and it's about 5 or 6 guys that's in that. And he seems to have solidified that. So is he having, if you had to really pick, is he potentially having the best spring of any other freshman?
I think he potentially is. Isn't that scary, Martin? Here we are, we're talking about a freshman when we got Devontae Smith, the great wide receiver who caught the winning touchdown in a championship game. We got Jerry Jeudy, who jumps out next last year can catch it anywhere. You got Henry Ruggs is the touchdown maker, and you got Jalen Waddle, who's even better than he was last year. And we're talking about a freshman who's making waves. So not only does Alabama have what I consider to be the best wide receiving core in the nation, it seems like we're adding to that. So yeah, I think that's impressive. Anytime you come in and you're competing with those type guys, and you've got the eye of the coach for him to call your name out and make some play, and you're making plays in scrimmages, I think the upside there for that freshman is really good. So I don't know how they're going to work him in to the offense and what his role will be, but it looks like they're trying to make a role for him in the wide receiver.
Well, speaking with DC Capstone Report, you can find it at dccapstonereport.com. DC, a couple of other rapid fire questions for you. When you look at this, are you still worried? Are you still as worried if you're an Alabama fan about this team as you were the day one based on the last comments we heard from Nick Saban? Or do you feel better? Because coming into this spring, has Alabama at this point, in your opinion, really addressed the concerns that we had after the Clemson game?
Offensively, I think I'm not concerned, but I am still concerned defensively with the middle linebacker positions. I think that's a big hole, and I'm not sure we've addressed that very well. I think they're still searching, so I think that's a concern for me.
DC, when you look at Jedrick Wills went down, and there's some people that had complaints about Jedrick Wills. I didn't have complaints about the way Jedrick Wills played. I had complaints about Jedrick Wills' mental capacity to stay on sides. When he went down, they put Womack out there, and everybody's talking about where Womack has started. Can Womack perform at right tackle, which is really the left tackle spot when you come to Tua? Is Womack, or do you feel comfortable with Womack being the right tackle if Wills is not able to go?
Well, I think he filled that spot because he's got the most experience. He's the next man up in that rotation on the offensive line. And so I think that's the go-to guy, unless they develop someone else. You know, it concerns me a little bit because that is Tua's blind side, and I've always been a little concerned about that. You know, I think Matt Womack can do the job, but I'm not sure he has the quickness that Jedrick Wills has, or he has the agility that first step to get off the line. And I think he is a little more experienced, but that's about to me, that's the extent of why he's the next guy up in that position.
Yeah, I would be concerned if we had to go against a couple of elite rushers and they put them on, and all they had a week to prepare it and flip him to that other side and put him on Womack to come after the passer because of Tua being a lefty. I
think I can wear out the scrimmage. Some of the interceptions, I believe, were because of after Jedrick Wills went down. Some of the outside rushers getting to the quarterback pretty fast there. So, yeah, I think our concerns are warranted.
When you look at this team, DC, on the defensive side of the ball, which group has impressed the most or been the biggest surprise in terms of a positive so far?
I think the defensive backfield, with Diggs coming back and playing well. Josh Jobe, I understand, really did a great job in this scrimmage. He may have had 2 or 3 interceptions, one for pick 6. I think he's really up to his game. And so you got all the other defensive backs are doing well. Hadn't heard much from Patrick Surtain this time, but I understand from what people have told me, hadn't heard his name called, but he's really done a good work of improvement. So I think the defensive backfield is what I'm impressed with coming out so far in the spring ball.
All right, DC, when you going to get that podcast up and let our listeners know where they can find you?
It'll be up later on this evening. We'll have a podcast. We're going to be previewing the 8-day game, what to expect from the offense and the defense, and some of the players to watch for in this game. And you can find us at dccapstonereport.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at DavidCott50, at DavidCott50.
All right, thank you. That's DC Capstone Report every Tuesday right here on the Blitz. Thanks, DC. We'll catch up with you.